they have been hedging. And of course, the whole idea is to hedge. You hedge by not having atomic weapons, so you don't provoke your buddies in Saudi Arabia and Turkey and Egypt to think of you as a nuclear weapon state and cause them to react. But you look pretty threatening to the Israelis because, you start fooling around with us. We're only a gnat's hair away from being an atomic weapon state to strike back. It's a very, very clever, deeply thought out policy, something we don't see at all in the West.
Yeah. Okay. So with given all that information is set up, how then can they move that to nuclear weapons capability and actually build a bomb in, as you say, between 5 and 6 weeks?
Okay. Well, they have this uranium hexafluoride. It's we can take a look at this material. This is a gas. I mean, it's a solid most of the time. It's sort of at room temperature. It's a solid. It's looks like salt, crusty salt. I'll show you an image of some in the tube. And if you heat it up to maybe 170, 180 degrees Fahrenheit, 80 degrees Celsius, it evaporates. And so it's in the centrifuge as a gas. And you're using the gas to, you're separating the gas by having it pressed up against the wall. And the heavier U-238 is closer to the wall. The lighter U-235 is slightly less close. And you're sipping it out stage by stage. So now you have this uranium hexafluoride. Let me just show you. Slide 31 shows you what uranium hexafluoride looks like.
Looks like cotton candy.
What?
Looks like cotton candy.
Yeah. It's probably okay. Well, it's toxic, so
yeah, I don't want to eat it, but
I wouldn't want to lick it. So you have to convert this to metal because it turns out that the uranium hexafluoride is about 2/3 heavier than the uranium atom. So if you take uranium hexafluoride and you separate out the uranium atom, you will get 2/3 the weight, 6.66 the weight of uranium. So if you have 25 kilograms of uranium hexafluoride, which the IAEA is calling an atomic bomb, then 13 or 14 kilograms of uranium is associated, if you take the fluorine off it. So how do you do that? Well, some of the people, another obfuscate, in fact, this is what actually got me started putting together this briefing. Somebody made some claim about, well, they got to turn it into metal, big deal, it's a big deal. Well, nonsense. It's less of a problem than enriching with the centrifuges. Less of a problem. So I went out and I looked up a Russian paper on converting uranium hexafluoride to metal. Let's look at slide 33. All right, very nice diagram. The Russians usually don't do good graphics, but this one's a nice one. And we have a man standing here, so that gives us a sense of scale. And if you look at the leftmost part of this train, you see a red pipe and a green pipe on the left with hydrogen and fluorine coming in pipes. And the pipes make a sudden drop vertically, and then there's a chamber called a chemical reactor. You can see it's in red too, and it's going from left to right. The pipe center on the left side. That is a chemical converter to convert hydrogen, uranium hexafluoride to uranium tetrafluoride. So it's a two-step process we're going to go through here. So what we do now, uranium tetrafluoride, I'll show you a picture of it shortly. It's called green salt. It's a solid. And so out of this chemical separator through this pipe that's to the right of it is a gas. And let me tell you, it's nasty stuff. It's hydrogen fluoride, which is, etches glass. I mean, this is, not, it's chemically dealt with in industry all the time, but it's, maybe Gary can do it in his garage, but I wouldn't advise it to other people. And, but
You hear that, Gary? Don't do it.
I'm taking notes.
yeah. And then it goes into a device called the cyclone generator, a separator. And a cyclone separator, let me just show you. I just want to, I know there's a lot of detail. I just want to show you that there's information for anybody who wants it that shows you this stuff is compact. It can be built by people who know what they're doing. And we certainly know that the Iranians know what they're doing. So if we look at slide 35, we see a diagram, a conceptual diagram of this this converter. But if we look at the next slide, slide 36, we actually see a converter that the Russians built. And what I've done here is labeled it for anybody who wants the slide, so if you look at the leftmost part of this exotic looking device, you'll see there's a hydrogen inlet and a fluorine inlet labeled. And the hydrogen and fluorine is mixed together and pressurized through a nozzle. And then there's this combustion chamber where the hydrogen and fluorine is burning. I mean, this is a complicated device. And the hydrogen and fluorine are then at high pressure and temperature forced through another set of inlets. And this is two rows of inlets, because in between these two rows of inlets, at the top you see an injection gas phase uranium hexafluoride and hydrogen. And at these high temperatures and pressures, what you get coming out to the right is a chemical reaction zone where you have atomic hydrogen, not molecular hydrogen, plus uranium hexafluoride, which then becomes uranium tetrafluoride, plus hydrogen fluoride. This is really nasty stuff. All right, but so you have a mixture of solid particles and gas. Well, you don't want the gas. The gas is nasty stuff and it's waste. So if you go to slide 37, you pass it through a device which you saw in the original diagram. Let's go back to. Sorry, I just want to remind your audience. Let's go back to slide 33. You can see this funnel-shaped cyclone separator. And the cyclone separator is separating the particles of green salt from the hydrogen fluoride gas, which is venting out through the top of this separator and then into this ventilation shaft that's shown in the upper left corner. So you can vent to your neighbor if you don't like them, but make sure you're not in the path of this stuff because it's really nasty. On slide 38, you come up with this nice stuff, this green salt. So now you have to separate the fluorine from the green salt.
I know you're going to explain this, but just give us a sense here. How many more steps to turn this green?
One more step, and you got
it. Nuclear bomb.
One more step.
Holy cow!
So what you do is you go out. Let's look at slide 46. You go out and you get some reaction. They're called reaction vessels. They can withstand high pressures and temperatures. And what you do is you put what's called an induction coil around them. Let's look at slide 47. This is a high current induction coil. I won't go through the details. They're in the slides for those of you who are interested enough in them. And the induction coil creates an oscillating magnetic field inside it. And that oscillating magnetic field creates currents which heat the material inside the crucible. So if we look at slide 48, let's look at the lower right figure in slide 48. You can see This is a crucible with molten metal in it and an induction coil. Again, the details are in the briefing for those of you who want to take care of it in your garage. And then go to slide 51. And we have this crucible. Now the crucible is sealed. This thing is hot, and it's also under high pressure. So here you have this row of 6 pictures. What you first do is you take the green salt and you mix it in with magnesium fragments. You just put magnesium in it. You just mix it, stir it together, this powder. And you start heating it. Once it starts heating, the uranium green glass starts melting. That's about 1036 degrees Celsius. Then at 1090 degrees Celsius, we're looking now at the third image from the left, the magnesium starts to vaporize. Now this stuff starts to combust. It starts reacting. You don't have to heat it at all now. It's heating itself. And it is hotter than hell. And it's well over 1100 or 12. It gets to 1500 degrees Celsius before you're finished. And if we look at the rightmost section, what happens is the uranium metal, this is a mix of materials. You have magnesium fluoride, which is relatively low density, and uranium, which is very high density. So the uranium just falls out. It just slops out at the bottom of the canister. So all you do, let's look at slide 53, is you open the canister and take out the uranium. That's the uranium there. And then there's some other steps, but I'll skip them because, what we want to do is give your audience a sense. Slide 55 shows an ingot of uranium, and if you go to slide 56, it's a not very good photograph of uranium sphere being machined on a lathe. Notice that this lathe is not in a glove box. If it were plutonium, it would have to be in a glove box. That stuff much too toxic. But you don't need a glove box for uranium. You have to be careful because you can ignite it because it does burn. All right, so now we have the uranium. So the final step. Let's go to the final step. All right, if you go to slide 58, we need a critical mass of uranium for a bomb. Turns out that 13 or 14 kilograms of 90 to 95% enriched uranium will give us a critical mass. How do we know? Let's go to slide 59. Courtesy of a typical technical book. Again, I put this out there because this is all in the open. I want people to know that, if you're a non-specialist, you don't know this, but if you're, so they can lie to you. But if you know anything, they can't lie to you. This should include, incidentally, members of the Senate or the Congress who want to know and want to ask tough questions. So I'm putting it out there for you guys in the Congress if you want this information. And if you don't want it, don't blame me. Because it's your job to know this. It's there for you to know. Incidentally, one of my colleagues at Stanford, who I used to be quite friendly with, Condi Rice, used to tell her students after she came back to Stanford after she was Secretary of State, and she was accused of lying about, the claims that
weapons of mass destruction and all that.
Saddam Hussein had aluminum tubes, which he was making centrifuges out of, this device that I was talking about. She would tell the students that she just didn't know. She just didn't have anyone she could ask. Well, she could have asked me. I was a close friend of hers. She no longer talks to me, but that's fine with me because I don't want to talk with her. But she could have asked Sidney Drell. She could have asked the intelligence community. She was the Secretary of State at the time. The fact that someone like this lies this way and gets away with it infuriates me because they are responsible. If they don't know, they didn't want to know. That's the bottom line. She was just lying about it, and she knew or had to know. Anyway,
okay, so now I don't want to push you along. We're running a little bit short on time. So we got to this point now. How then do you get 10 nuclear bombs from 408 kilograms of 60% uranium?
well, all you need is 37.5 kilograms of uranium hexafluoride to convert to metal. Divide 408 kilograms of uranium hexafluoride, you get a number like 10 or 11. That means you have enough uranium metal, if you convert it, for 10 nuclear bombs.
And so how long would it take from the decision? Let's say they decide
if
Friday
you have
morning that they're going to do it. How long would it take before the first one is produced? And by the way, let me clarify. When you say material for a nuclear bomb, that means like the actual warhead itself.
The bomb itself. Let me just show you one more slide, because this is important. This is quite important. Is slide 63. This is an Encyclopedia Britannica diagram showing you a gun-assembled fission weapon. In other words, this is a spherical weapon. This particular diagram does not have a big reflector, which we won't worry about for the moment, but it could easily have it. And you could simply insert, you would have a spherical weapon. You could simply insert the final pieces of uranium into it, and with a neutron initiator, which was used in the first little boy atomic bomb. That simple. And you could get 15 kiloton yield from this nuclear weapon. The amount of materials you would need to build this would weigh about 45 kilograms. So I say, well, you want to build a casing for the bomb, you want to put it in a package, you want safety mechanisms. So I say maybe it weighs twice or 3 times more than the actual mechanism for the bomb. So the bomb weighs 150 kilograms. Well, your ballistic missiles can carry 450 kilograms to, weapon. They're now doing it routinely from Iran. So you have a nuclear delivery system too. It's already in your hands.
So once you have their version of this thing you're showing on the screen right now in 63, how technically difficult is it to get that onto and have it function properly? The
piece of cake. I mean, if you can build, well, nothing's a piece of cake, but if you have the engineering capacity to put conventional warheads on your current missiles and get them to work, you already have the capacity to mount this bomb on your system. There's nothing. And
obviously, this would be different shape and everything else from a standard high explosive warhead.
It would be easier to handle.
Right, but do you have a sense for how long it would take to manufacture that?
I think if you prepared, we don't know how much preparation they made. The first bomb might take you 10 weeks because you want to manufacture the casing and the assembly system, although you may have done that already. My own guess is they've done it already, because you don't need to be in any way under International Atomic Energy Agency review.
Used for that.
So
and so, like you said, if they've tested already up to
I'm sure you would have
87% or whatever that number was, if they've done that part, then it seems reasonable to suggest they would have done
5 or 6
weeks
already. If they have one cascade, but it could be sooner than that. What if they have 2 cascades, 348, 350 centrifuges? There's no. I mean, I assume they have 1 cascade, but who knows how many they have.
So we have here, this is from July 4th. The IAEA pulls inspectors from Iran. So since July 4th, there hasn't been any eyes or ears on the ground. So the question is, how hard would it be physically for Iran to do this now that there's no IAEA inspectors there?
If they chose to move immediately, which they may not have done, I don't know. But if they chose to move immediately, they could potentially, if they had done enough preparation, I have to speculate about this. The alternate facility could take time to build, but my assumption is that they have built an alternate facility before anything happened, because all of this material, none of this is monitored by the IAEA. The only thing that was monitored by the IAEA was the centrifuge production, the number of centrifuges produced. But the IAEA admits that they have lost track of the centrifuge production. So if they lost track of the centrifuge production, that's the only critical item that the IAEA might have provided an insight on, and they don't have an insight to offer on that. So those centrifuges that the IAEA didn't know how to track for some reason.
Now, looking back at how the North Korean nuclear weapons program started, they did a lot of the stuff they did. They didn't have IAEA inspectors there in the beginning, but we found out about it when they conducted an underground nuclear test. Would you expect Iran to first do a nuclear test to show it, or would there just be a bomb?
I don't think they need a nuclear test. I don't think they need a nuclear.
And why is that? Why do they not need one?
Because a gun assembly bomb is very easy to make. What you could do is make a gun assembly bomb out of uranium-238, and then explosively test the mechanism for assembling it, which I'm sure is what we did with the little boy bomb. We didn't not test it. We made a little boy out of U-238 and made sure that the assembly mechanism, shoving the plug in the middle of this barrel, that it went right. U-235 is going to behave no differently from U-238. So if you know the assembly mechanism, if you know that you did the assembly mechanism correctly, then it doesn't matter. So you would not even need to test a bomb.
Well, that's a little bit concerning, because the hope has kind of been that would be an alert to something that happened. But now you're saying it's completely legitimate and valid that they may say they have one, and we wouldn't have any way to know whether they did or didn't. No, we would have to assume they did.
We would not know.
And so if I can
we would only know if we knew that the 408 kilograms of 60% uranium was still under oversight, but we no longer have that data.
So the bottom line to all this is that as of right now, as we're speaking here, if
we're worse off than we were.
It is worse than it was before. So Iran, in their secret chambers, whatever, they can decide, all right, we're going to do that tomorrow morning, and no one would know anything about it because we don't have any eyes or ears on the ground until a declaration was made or a bomb shows up. Is that accurate?
Right.
Then that is profoundly worse than it was before. So we went from the JCPOA in 2015, 2018, which was the best condition, to then a second best, which is what we had with the IAEA still on the ground.
Right.
And then this is the worst of all circumstances.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with it.
That's not helpful.
Well, if there are any staff members who work for Congress watching this by any chance, please feel free to contact me. Certainly send me an email for the slides. And,
I know there are some, and in fact, I'm going to forward this to one that I know of for a fact that watches our show.
I sent something to Tim Kaine 2 weeks ago, and I'm familiar with how the Congress works, so I made sure that his chief of staff got a copy, and I made sure that his chief of in charge of security policy got a copy, and neither of them have even acknowledged receipt of my email. And
I don't think they understand what's at stake here. This is
I
profound.
don't understand how you could be a professional in this area and behave this way.
Come on, Ken. Look at the guy, Sean Parnell from the DOD, who made that statement, and you can't say that.
What can I tell you? Look at Mark Kelly and his staff.
You can add that to the list. Yeah, I laugh about it.
Emails I got from his staff. He should hate the possibility that they would be made public, which I'd be happy to do. Writing me, say, no, thanks, we're not interested in you and talking to you.
So right now, whether this goes to nuclear weapons is to be determined. We don't know that. But what we can say with a lot of confidence, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, that because of the bombing that we did on these three nuclear
facilities, they are potentially a nuclear weapon state.
But we've opened the door for it, and because the IAEA has been kicked out because of that bombing,
right? The IAEA was the only thing in between them and secretly building it. It's a pretty, it's pretty, I don't know, reckless, but you got to have a lot of courage and confidence in your security apparatus to go ahead and build those weapons. And I'm not sure they may or may not have that, but it's good enough to be only a few weeks away from it, because this is a lowball estimate. They could have 3 or 4 or 5 of these cascades working. I'm just assuming a single cascade. We don't know how many of them. If the Fordo centrifuges were not damaged, which there is a very good reason to believe there probably weren't, they have 10 cascades without the surreptitious cascades that I'm postulating. That's less than a week to enrich the uranium for a bomb. Days. So, if you have the facts in front of you, which I have presented here, and someone tells you that, and you're a member of the Congress, you have the facts to question what they're telling you. And I would like to see the members of our Congress do their jobs, because they have a fiduciary responsibility to their citizens to ask these questions. When they stand up there and say, "Oh, I don't know anything, I really want help," like Tim Kaine did, and then his staff doesn't even acknowledge receipt of information, I'm sorry. I know it's impolitic for me to do this. All my friends who are experts say, "Ted, don't say this." Well, I'm fed up. I acknowledge it. I'm fed up. If you ask me for help, you will get my polite help, 500% of my attention. But don't ignore what I'm trying to do to help you.
Especially when the stakes are
It's a
as high as they are.
disservice to the country. Forget about me. I'm an emeritus professor. Nobody cares about me. And they shouldn't. But you should care about what I'm telling you.
And we do, and that's why we're really grateful that you came on today, even though it's a pretty alarming situation, which we'll certainly try to expand here. And folks, listen, all the folks I see, we got a pretty good crew watching here. Listen, send this out to everybody that you can. This is something that needs to be shouted from the rooftops. This is a very serious issue here that we may have made ourselves unwittingly incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah, let these guys explain why I'm wrong. It's easy enough. They're all geniuses. They all got their intelligence community from all over. All these intelligence communities from all over congratulating them, and before anyone, including the Iranians, know what happened at Fordo.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that we showed you Sean Parnell's statement about it? He claims that this is the consensus of the United States intelligence capacity. Do you think that?
I don't believe that.
You don't believe this. So you don't think that our intelligence is so misinformed or lack of knowledge that they wouldn't know what you talk to us?
I believe that Tulsi Gabbard was freaked out of her mind. I don't know this. I want to be very clear. I have no contact with her. Was freaked out of her mind when she saw this screw up, this goat rodeo beginning, because they were discussing this for a little while. She tried to alert them to this information. In fact, she was so concerned that she went out on her own and produced this video, which was a very responsible video. Instead of attacking her for producing this video, the press should compliment her for trying to do the right thing. And she got attacked for it. She got reprimanded by Trump for it. But what she was doing was trying to issue a warning, and nobody in the so-called responsible public journalist community understood what she was doing.
The problem is going to be that if Iran gets this, that the deterrence dynamics and the relationship between states in the region will be forever altered, and we have a very, very different situation on our hand if that comes to pass.
I think so. It's altered now by perception. I mean, from Iran's point of view, the perception that they could have, I mean, they're stating very emphatically that they don't intend to build a bomb. Who knows what they're doing?
Right. But now we just have to hope that that's the case, because we have surrendered every opportunity to ensure that didn't happen because of some alleged less than perfect, going all the way back to the 2015 Obama deal, because it was allegedly not perfect. We got rid of that. And then we have gotten rid of what was even left of it. And so now then we just have to rely on their good graces not to do what you say they had the technical capacity to do.
Well, there's this old Russian statement that best is the enemy of good enough. And good enough is what we had.
We did. Yeah. Well, listen, we'll just have to keep monitoring this, and certainly let us know if you come across any other additional information or any other things that gives you any concern, and we'll pass that right along.
And I'm available, members of Congress, staff people. I'm happy to work with the staff. I don't expect to meet the Congress people. They're busy. I understand how busy they are. But I do know that the staff has a job, and I'm happy to help with it.
Yeah, and we've had your Gary's put your email address up there along with the subject line that you have requested for, and there it is again for anybody who may have missed it. And email Professor Postol. Let him know.
Yeah.
If you want that information, or if you have any other information, that would be great too. Or if you want to contact him to have him come brief somebody, for example.
Absolutely, be happy to come down to Washington.
Yeah, and if you do, we'll get together.
Okay, absolutely. No question.
All right. Well, listen, thank you very much for this. I mean, it's very sobering, but we're unintimidated and uncompromised to bring you the truth, even something like this, because everybody deserves to know the truth.
Thanks very much. Let's watch out that Gary doesn't release all that hydrogen fluoride onto his neighbors.
Yeah, I know. When you go into the garage, man, I was worried he was taking a lot of notes there, so we'll have to wait and see how that works out. All righty. Thank you very much, and we'll see everybody on the next episode of Daniel Day.
Take care. Bye-bye.